Welcome back. We have a firebat as well. Welcome. Welcome back to the Sweet 16, actually top 16 in DreamHack Summer Rion Shopping Sweden. We're playing the playoff stage to get the final top 8 for tomorrow. Well, crowning of the champion. We already had seen 2 matches. Now we're going to go into the third one, which will be Xixo versus Dethelor. We have just kind of made some research about the deck list, right, Firebat? Is there anything interesting in those?
It is interesting that they're a lot more aggressive than some of the deck lists we've been seeing earlier on throughout the tournament.
We just had a pirate warrior
Right.
stream.
But previously, when we were doing all of the Swiss rounds, it was almost always control versus control. And even then, most of the lineup there was very control-y. There was just the one pirate warrior that was the outlier. Now, these are more aggro lineups in general. Like if we look here, we have Dethelor having the fairly aggressive variation of Paladin, playing Blessing of Kings, playing the Grimscale Chum. We have him with the double Bloodlust Shaman and the aggro Druid. Both players having aggro Druid, both players having the Bloodlust Shaman, and
having the same mage,
yeah,
right?
the same mage card for card. So it's the same exact tech choices, the included tech choice of the Doomsayer.
Which is really strange. Not strange tech choice on its own, but strange that both players should include exactly one Doomsayer in their deck. So maybe they've been working together a little bit at some point in the recent past?
I think maybe they have been. Maybe they kind of like collaborated on mage decks or...
The difference being that Xixo is playing the Caverns Rogue, which he's played a lot since the Ungora was released in
It's one of Xixo's favorite decks for sure. He's always been known as like a combo deck player. Back in Patron days, he excelled at that. He's always excelled at Miracle Rogue, for example. So it makes sense that he's playing Quest Rogue.
Yeah, definitely. Both of the mages are getting banned, so unfortunately we will not see a complete mirror match. But now we're gonna just jump straight into the game. So Firebat, Lorinda, have fun.
Yeah, gonna enjoy this one. Might see you.
All right, we are here. We are going to cast the match. It is going to be Xixo versus Dethelor. I am Firebat. Joining me for the cast is Lorinda.
Yo, who are you? I've not seen you for, an hour or two.
Yeah, I had a break there in a little bit, so I'm refueled, ready to go. Just cast the last match, though, and...
this one might be quick. Xixo, not exactly a slow player at the best of times, and we just have all aggro stuff. It might be a refreshing change from quite a lot of rounds we cast together of just control.
Right, and Xixo's opening up with his Quest Rogue, and I imagine Dethelor kind of expected this to be the deck he chooses to open with, as it doesn't really excel against any of Dethelor's lineup. It's really weak against almost all of his decks, so, just queuing that up first, try and get a win with it. If not, you at least get some scouting information, and then you can counter queue from there respectively.
Yeah, getting it out of the way. If you're going to lose with it anyway, you might as well get yourself into the position to go 1-1.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than anything disastrous happening. But the thing with Quest Rogue is, even though it has some pretty bad matchups, over time, it's just seemed to have developed towards the 50-50 in both directions. The really good matchups, people have learned how to play against it. The really bad matchups, the Quest Rogues found ways to survive with, like, Tar Creepers, how exactly to use Biofin, how exactly to freeze at the right time. And so the Quest Rogue is also not a complete pushover anymore, but Dethelor does have the Chum into 2-drop opener.
Right, he's got a powerful opening to deal with the potential early game of the Quest Rogue. Xixo just going to get the dagger out there to try and disable the Rockpool Hunter. He has information that there is another Murloc in Dethelor's hand, and this also allows him to, have his minions potentially stick. You just want to not allow Rockpool to come down. You don't want your opponent buffing Murlocs in the early game.
Yeah, and here comes the buffed charging 3-2. There's one backstab in Xixo's deck.
Right, one backstab and one Tar Creeper. Those are the 2 defensive options he's included in the entire deck. Picking up this Vanish, though, Prep Vanish is very good at, removing your opponent's board, stopping pressure, so that could be very helpful leading in.
Taking a moment to get that Caverns played. Quite often can delay it to turn 3, turn 4 if you really need to fight for board, but you don't really want to miss the chance to start bouncing off a Firefly if you can help it. All those 1-2s become 5-5s later on. You don't really want to get rid of them.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, though. Dethelor's mounting a lot of pressure. This Paladin deck, quite aggressive. He has the Rallying Blade in there. He's got the Blessing of Kings in there. That's always going to be a threat. So just tons of firepower, and he's off to such a great start with it, too.
Mimic Pod can swing this.
Sure.
It's one of the cards you get the right hit, you can be good on it.
Get a Firefly, and you're good to go.
Yeah, just get on with it. Start making 5/5s.
Right, so that's always the thing Quest Rogue can do.
Ignis Elemental's a nice pickup here.
That gets Firefly every time, kind of. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a pain because you can't kill it. I think that's why people sometimes do play one backstab when they're playing the Igneous now, as well as all the other things against anti-aggro. Sometimes you get stuck not being able to kill this thing. Just having that one activator can be really useful.
Yeah, and so of course Dethelor going to be playing the Stonehill Defender to try and disable Xixo's ability to kill off his own Igneous Elemental.
Yeah, there's a phrase we never thought we'd be saying in all of Hearthstone.
Yeah, it's a common thing against the Quest Rogue. Try and stop them from accumulating those flame elementals to be able to complete the quest.
It's funny because this is obviously correct, but you do see some people second guess themselves so much on trying to stop that kill itself, they just throw the game away. I've seen it more than once, especially with hunters, where they say, oh, I won't play any minions, and the Igneous Elemental won't die, and suddenly it's hit them for 10 because they haven't played anything for 5 turns.
The Quest Rogue is a very powerful deck when given a lot of time as well. Once it gets to the point where it has a large mana, it can really utilize its vanishes to do some broken stuff.
Right.
So you have to stop the Igneous from being able to kill itself, but you also have to be pressuring your opponent. So Dethelor is doing a very good job of that.
Yeah, down to 16 already here for Xixo, and just not getting anywhere regarding the quest. No real sign of that changing anytime soon. Maybe Schwarzberg will find him something to be able to challenge this with.
It's going to need to be something really good.
Yeah. Patches isn't really good at this point.
No.
So maybe he goes for the Mimic Pod.
What could Mimic Pod even pull? He needs some way to get rid of this Stonehill Defender so he can trade off his minion.
That's what he's going to look for.
Yeah, like a Blessing of Might or something there would have been really strong, actually.
Really weird how like some of the worst cards, when they're fetched at random, can become some of the more powerful cards. But yeah, now he's in a world of hurt. He's going to have to just kill off this 1/4 so he can do something next turn, you would imagine. Trying to get some questy bits done in the meantime as well.
Yeah, he's setting up to be able to have those Flame Elementals next turn, be able to play both the Flame Elementals from the Igneous, the Flame Elemental in his hand, and then prep out of the quest. So he's got the mana to do all of that next turn, so it's important that he picked up the Flame Elemental that turn.
And this could just be lethal.
Wind Fury.
Yeah, that's 16.
Just like that, the Quest Rogue goes down. But Xixo, he queued it up first because he wanted scouting information. He didn't expect it to get a win against any of Dethelor's decks. So now he knows the Paladin is there, and he can respond with his counter deck to the Paladin, which is the Bloodlust Evolved Shaman.
Okay, and then he's in the situation, but he is that situation 1-0 down. Dethelor will get the chance to queue his own counters up, and of course these are pretty much mirrored lineups, give or take. So
well,
the Rogue being the odd one out, and that's just gone now. So Dethelor has like a bonus Paladin. Okay,
Xixo's queuing the Druid up, and so excuse me trying to say that it was Shaman. The Druid also does well against the aggro Paladin because it can oftentimes get on the board a lot better than it can, and sometimes includes Hungry Crabs. He does not have any of the Hungry Crabs in his deck, but it's just a faster onboard deck and can, take buffs with Mark of the Lotus and Power of the Wild in the early game to snowball a quick lead.
The double Galaka Crawler as well in this deck. So, gone back to its roots a little bit. I noticed that some of the Druid decks recently have been going to like 6 5-drops with double Bitter Tide and maybe throwing in a Druid of the Claw.
Yeah.
I think Xixo is just playing 1 Bitter Tide, 1 Finger, double Living Mana. That to me feels like as many as you would want. You start putting in the extras for a bit more sustain against control, and you just lose the whole feel of the deck.
Right, you're not able to get on board as consistently as early, but looking at Xixo's hand, he is going to be on board early. He's going to have the Mark of the Lotus to buff his minions up to take favorable trades, and the Paladin from Dethelor has only 1 Consecrate to try and recover the board, so if Dethelor does lose the board early, he can't really recover it too often.
Xixo only playing 1 Vicious Fledgling, so his chance of just doing the Nightmare start or the Dream start, depending where you're sat, reduced significantly with that only 1 off.
But it's because he has the additional 3 drops of the Murloc War Leaders to include the Finja package. So it makes sense. He just wants to have a nice smooth curve, allow some consistency.
It turns out that innovating Finja is almost as good as innovating out a Fledgling when you get it in a 5 Murloc package deck. That Chum is doing good work though for Dethelor. If he's going to have a chance in this game, he does need to get that flying start. Best way to challenge this is to go as wide as you can and get Mark of the Lotus. That's how he's trying to plan it. How
Right.
you go about doing it, easier said than done.
Yeah, you want to set up a good board for having the Mark of the Lotus. You also don't want to let Rockpool Hunter land. He may even just innervate out both these Fireflies here to try and get all of the minions out there for the Mark of the Lotus next turn. If he top decks a 1-drop, especially if he top decks a 1-drop Pirate, then he can really snowball this board state.
Bloodsail Corsair into everything's really big. It'd be like an evolve you can control, which would be rather nice.
Dethelor's 2-3 does not look very impressive.
And it looks even less impressive because of the backup, which is precisely nothing right now.
Yeah.
Like, there is no backup. The backup plan has gone a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Mark of the Lotus is such an incredibly powerful card, as well as Innervate. And together,
Oh, talking of which,
and this is also another incredibly powerful card for controlling the board. And Xixo knows, because deck lists are revealed at this stage of the tournament, there is only one Consecrate in the deck for Dethelor, so his comeback potential, very limited.
next turn setting up an option to go with a Murloc plus Mark of the Lotus, and he'll take a view, see what happens this turn, and he'll be very interested to see what he does when he sees that nothing happens this turn.
Finge is one of the cards that can actually really allow you to come back in the game.
Right.
So Dethelor picking that up, it's not the best time for him to pick it up, but it guarantees you to land a Spike Ridge Steed, and Spike Ridge Steed can really slow down an aggro druid. Ooh.
Oh.
Now you got decision time.
I mean,
on the one side, you play around Consecrate a lot better by trade Vicious Fledgling. On the other side, you play around True Silver a lot better by extending and using Mark of the Lotus.
he's going to go for the non-blowout. It's like, okay, I'm just going to keep putting pressure on. And to be honest, he can get the Fledgling down in the future, possibly even next turn, with all of this as backup. And if your opponent's consecrating, they're missing turn 5. For 5 mana consecrate might not be just very good for you at all.
Yeah, and Consecrate's just not good here. True Silver's okay, but it's not great. So, honestly, the Gentle Megasaur is one of the better plays you could have on this board.
It's never going to have, I mean, the situation where you get the Megasaur into a Murloc is a situation where you've already got back into it and won the game anyway, so might as well get it over with.
Yeah, the patches there is actually a very convenient pickup for Xixo to allow him to develop and remove his opponent's board.
And although Finger is okay here, it's only okay if he's alive going into turn 6 or close to alive. But that Spike Ridge Steed is going to
It's huge.
be
It's
interesting.
so much taunt health, especially if you can pull out a Murloc War Leader and then buff up the health even more. No Wind Fury for
No
Xixo.
Wind Fury, no Poison. Poison would be something that would be very interesting. I want to see if he took it or not, if it came up, because of next turn being so dangerous with that Spike Ridge.
Yeah, yeah. He has to be worried about it. He's going to go for the plants, interestingly enough, instead of the additional attack.
And he just goes all in here, aware of some of the threats. He needs to have that attack on board ready for potential problems next turn. And it sets up a Savage Roar win.
Yeah, extending all the way in like this does not play around Consecrate well, but it plays around Spike Ridge Steed a lot better because you've already got the damage in from your minions, you get them in play. They get an extra attack out.
He's probably not favoured in this spot, despite the fact he looks like he's miles in front.
He's definitely not in that bad of a spot. You don't necessarily have to kill the Vicious Fledgling. It can't connect with the face, so you can deny the value of your opponent's Death Rattle 1/1s by taking the trade into something like the Galaka Crawler first. And if they can't connect the Fledgling to the face, then you're all good.
Yeah, let's see how he ends up. I can't think what Xixo can do. Obviously, he gets the reload at some point with living mana. That's always a threat, especially if you pick up a Savage Roar afterwards at some point or another mark.
Just Savage Roar next turn is absolutely crazy.
Bittertide Hydra is probably good enough.
It's not bad. Oh my, that is the perfect set of Murlocs to pull out of that.
Yeah, this is old school Murloc stuff.
Yeah, it looks like Dethelor is going to be able to stabilize on the back of the Finja into Spike Ridge Steed.
Dethelor also seems a lot more relaxed than he did in the qualifying match. You know, he was busy worrying about windmills and stuff in that match, and couldn't. You know, he looked like he was like the end of the world. But now he's in this top 16. It's like he's relaxed. It's like job done. Let's get on and just play Hearthstone.
Sure, seems definitely much more calm. His hands are not covering his face as much anymore, and that's usually a good sign.
He was good, man.
When players get stressed, they always cover their face with their hands.
Yep. Right, Xixo managing to try to get a board together, but Blessing of Kings on a 2/6 just gives the Druid so many problems. Obviously, there is just no hurry for Dethelor to actually inflict any damage to the face whatsoever here. The whole thing is just kill all your opponent's minions and be ready for living mana.
Right. You can kind of consider trying to play around swipe a little bit sometimes.
Right.
Some aggro druids run one copy of swipe. Xixo does not. Dethelor has one in his deck, but so he can just take all of the highest health trades, leaving his minions at 1 health. No fear of swipe at all because it's not there. Xixo packing it up. No way to take that one. He is down 0-2 against Dethelor, but he's not out of it yet. If we look at the deck list, he has Shaman remaining, and the Evolved Shaman typically does well against the decks remaining for Dethelor. Dethelor has his Paladin, which gets bodied by Maelstrom, Portal, Jade Claws, and Evolve. He has Aggro Druid, which is not favored against Shaman, and then he's got his own Shaman in the form of the Shaman Mirror. So Xixo definitely still has a solid chance to be able to win this series.
And I think that's the pattern of this tournament, is that Shaman is the deck that is capable of running through lineups. And I am amazed that Mage has been banned more than the Shaman. I know that Mage is another deck that's very solid and very powerful, but in the absence of Mage, the Shamans are running riot.
The thing is, if you ban your opponent's Shaman and then they ban your Mage,
sure,
then
you kind of lost.
Then you've kind of lost, yeah. So there's like that little mind games there with the bans of which one to ban, because both of these players' lineups get swept by either Mage or Shaman, and if you ban the wrong one, then it's a little bit worse off for you. So if you ban the Shaman and leave up their Mage, and they banned your Mage, then you're kind of screwed.
Last year was interesting for that. I mentioned it a few times previously, that at Winter, everyone was playing Shaman like it was the era of the face / slightly face Shaman.
The mid-range.
The mid-rangey face Shaman.
Yeah.
Shaman, everyone played Shaman, and it got banned all the time. And Zoo was actually the best deck, even though it was like not in sight on the ladder, particularly because Shaman destroyed it. Right. But everyone knew that Shaman was getting banned, so everyone who worked out, hang on, Zoo doesn't lose to anything else. It only loses to the deck I'm banning. And so Zoo just stomped all over the tournament. And this is what we're seeing with Token Shaman here at this tournament, I feel.
Yeah, it's just, when you get the mages out of the way, the Shaman becomes fantastic.
And that's made Taunt Warrior a good choice, which in turn has made Jade Druid a good choice. And that's how Last Hero Standing gets put together. All right, Xixo has a very good draw because it has a Flame Tongue in it. That seems to be the definition.
Yeah, he can use Flame Tongue, he can use Jade Claws. He's got options all over the place to be able to clear his opponent's board and build up his own at the exact same time. I like the Jade Claws better than the Flame Tongue Totem a little bit, so your opponent can't coin Rallying Blade and have a good turn.
Yeah, when the Murlocs don't get rolling, the synergy just falls apart. You play 5 4s for 4, you play 3 3s for 3, and suddenly your minions seem terrible.
Yeah, they just all die. They get traded up very easily. Xixo has the Flame Tongue to trade up into the next minion, and then he's got the Jade Lightning to remove the one after that.
Seems like a nice curve.
Yeah, he just needs to find the finisher pieces. The Shaman can fall apart when it's unable to find the Evolves or unable to find the Bloodlusts. It needs one of those cards to really help close out games. Or just enough Jade cards. If it can find enough Jade cards, that's another way it can do it as well.
Sounds like plenty of ways to win, but sometimes you do feel like this deck doesn't quite draw enough cards, but Primorphin draws you cards as well.
Well, it draws you Murlocs.
Just draws your opponent's cards, basically, out of their deck, and like spends his time having to deal with it.
Sure, yeah. It definitely draws cards out of their hand. That's a really weird way to put that, but I follow what you're saying.
It's card advantage.
Yeah, it is card advantage, because it's an infinite generator of 1/1 tokens. Some might even call it a windmill.
A windmill.
Yeah.
A windmill generator.
Yeah.
Imagine if your Paladin hero power costs 0 every turn. That's what this card does.
It's what it does. 2 for the first turn, and then
Which is
0
how much it costs anyway.
Yeah.
For Paladin hero power, so it's not cost you anything.
Well, it costs you a card, which is a relevant resource.
Sure.
Yeah. The hero power doesn't cost any cards.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cards are worth mana somehow.
Everything's interlinked.
Right, if you can figure it all out.
Only Blizzard know the answers.
Well, I mean, there's people that have made spreadsheets before and tried to crack down on it.
You're a spreadsheet kind of guy.
Yeah, a life coach made one as well at some point, and just talking about how all of the stats of, mana cost and...
I think Trump did it originally as well.
Right,
back in
Trump
the day.
did it. Yeah, just lots of how to compare things that seem uncomparable.
And then it all falls down when you realize that True Silver and Rallying Blade are almost identical, but one of them is fantastic because everything has 3 health, and one of them is not so good because everything has 3 health.
Right, you have to anticipate.
You throw the spreadsheet out of the window. and join your mage notes.
All right, so Dethelor has the Finja. It could allow him to come back in this game from a seemingly unwinnable position. Where now Xixo is in a bit of a panic.
Yeah, and he's got to put something on the board before it just gets full of 1/1s that Dethelor would be mighty tempted to do very little about.
Right, he doesn't have any good pressure at the moment. He needs to find that Bloodlust, needs to find that Evolve. But getting that Flame Tongue out there, trying to get close to being able to set up lethal.
So Dethelor will want to get Bluegills if he goes for Finja here. He's got the War Leader's buffs. All he wants is Bluegills to take down some of these annoying 0/3s.
Oh, yeah. He gets one Bluegill, so he can take out the Flame Tongue Totem that's threatening to do additional damage. I imagine you prioritize that over the Primal Fin Totem.
I think so, weirdly enough, even though the Primal Fin is often that important. It protects your Murlocs on the board, so...
So there's no beating Bloodlust for him, but...
But now, as soon as he's worked that out, he can forget about it and work out what he can beat. I can't think of any reason to not play a War Leader here.
He's got the swing with the weapon still, right? He hasn't swung this turn, so
I think
maybe he can beat Bloodlust.
So yeah, so he gets rid of...
Yeah, he could set up to try and be able to beat Bloodlust.
Okay, so that's what he's taking the time.
So is it worth it to beat Bloodlust from this point, or is it better to try and set up a stronger board and pretend that Bloodlust isn't a card your opponent has? That's the decision.
Yeah, it's not so easy when you can't see both sides.
Right.
Enough.
Yeah. So when he goes for this line of play, which is the stronger board line of play, Bloodlust does 12 plus 4, so Bloodlust would be able to kill him, but he's accepting a defeat to Bloodlust in order to set up a stronger board.
And now Xixo too short, I believe? Actually, he's too tall, but he's too short of lethal, I believe, here.
Yeah, he's got 4 damage from the Jade Lightning, 4 from the Flame Tongue, and 4 on the board. So 12.
But the re-swing back, you can't just put your opponent to 2 in this spot, because actually you start eating a whole bunch of damage and die to 2 turns yourself. And
you can try and go... Oh, you can't really go too much wider on the board. I was going to say, go so wide that your opponent can't trade into all of your stuff. But that's a bit unlikely when the board's full.
Earth Elemental pretty good at buying time. Because he needs, oddly enough, even though he had control of the board for a while there, he is going to need a little bit of time to just draw 1 or 2 win conditions.
He just needs to find one of those finishers. Shutting down all of the Murloc synergy at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you got to do. There's only 1 Consecrate for Dethelor, so if you can keep him off the board, he has a really hard time keeping you off the board.
Yeah, that's another chum, I believe, so not getting much done there.
Yeah, it seems like Xixo has successfully restabilized the board after the big Finja swing from Dethelor, and now Dethelor needs to try and navigate a way to get back on the board once again, and that's very difficult to do without any weapons, without Consecrate in his hand. He's going to have to kind of rely on...
There's no equality in this deck, no surprise, but sometimes they pack one, but now again, Xixo doesn't have to worry, open deck lists, etc., etc., repeat.
So what is the most aggressive way he can try and get on this board? Something...
I mean, so you work backwards, I find, in this situation works quite well. On turn 8, I'm playing Tyrion.
Right.
So what am I doing turn 7, so what am I going to do now? And work it out that way round, rather than how do I defend it one more turn.
Yeah, the Stonehill, though, is a very defensive kind of play.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going to turn the tide and not give Xixo the time that he's looking for. Yeah. It's weird, right? Because Zigzo's the guy who's doing all the beating, but he's also the one who needs a couple of turns.
He dodged a bullet there.
Oh, 50-50 Earth Elemental. Whew. That would have made him very unhappy.
Yeah, no kidding.
And if Xixo had just gone all face last turn, he'd have won the game.
Wow, yeah, but that's the 1 card in his entire deck.
I'm not saying it was a mistake, but if he'd gone all face last turn, he'd have won the game.
Sure, but I liked his play way better, just controlling the board.
I just like things I can say to Xixo about how he didn't win.
Okay.
I'm the sort of guy who makes everybody happy with statements like that. All right, so nice roll there.
Yeah, can achieve some value trades now.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Yeah, gets to trade in both of the Flame Elemental and the Fire Elemental into the 1/4 if he wants, and then trade the 3/4 into the 2/6, Jade Lightning it, heal everything up out of range, or he could try for a more aggressive clear that utilizes more Flame Tongue buffs but loses some minions.
Got to do some careful counting because next turn he would like to double Jade face in some situations. But in the real world, he'll do that turn 9 or turn 10, which is why he's going to drop the Earth Elemental to set him up for that turn 9, 8 to your face.
Yeah, and just getting an Earth Elemental out against a deck that has no Equality and no Aldor Peacekeepers,
yeah, good luck.
Nothing on the board right now is pretty good. It does open you up to potentially poison swinging this game, though.
Yeah, that's an opportunity that Dethelor's going to have to take.
Yep.
Xixo doesn't need to hit much damage to face, though. Dethelor's effectively on 6 at this point.
Is it poison?
It is not. Plus,
yeah, plus attack's not bad.
They'll do most of the work.
Yeah.
Cost him 1 extra minion, though.
That's not a big deal. I mean, you
is
take
it not?
those.
I don't know if it's not a big deal.
It's better than not killing it.
So there's 1 consecration in the deck. Xixo has 8 to face with the Jades next turn. How tempted is he just to play the Doppelgangster here? Make 1 trade, go to face for 3, and say if you haven't got consecration, you're not stopping me.
Does it beat Tyrion?
Does it beat Tyrion?
Because that's an important question when your opponent's got that 1 card that's been sitting there all day.
I don't think it does.
Then it's probably not worth it. He pushes for 3, and then your opponent gets to kill your Flame Tongue Totem.
I guess you can try and roll Wrath the Bear.
You definitely want to protect this Flame Tongue Totem, I'd say.
Yeah, as much as you possibly can.
So I like using the Jade Lightning here to take out the Murloc War Leader, simply just because you get to protect the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah, it doesn't beat Tyrion the other way, you're right. So... Alright.
Yeah.
Splitting the difference, keeping some board, keeping some...
Now he's protecting the Flame Tongue Totem against a weapon as well by taking all of the trades like this. He's just milking the value of the Flame Tongue Totem. Right now, the Flame Tongue Totem has equaled up to like 4 or 5 cards with the amount of trades it's allowed to happen.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's good in your opening hand. It would have beaten Tyrion.
With the Bloodlust, sure.
Every turn.
Yeah.
Every turn, it just would have worked.
He's got 10 damage through the Tyrion. So, not ideal. He can set up a bigger Bloodlust later. You could try and run out the Doppelgangster now. Yeah, he's going for the clear on the Tyrion.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of board development, but the Tyrion is handled with.
Jades is starting to make a relevant impact, though, now. 3's a number.
You're setting up lethal with this line. Dethelor's deck has very limited to no defensive options. So what?
Oh, there's one of them.
There's one of the options, so that is going to be able to keep him alive. But if your opponent's consecrating, how are they going to be able to beat?
Yeah, Xixo knows there's only 1 consecrate, and he has a card in hand that is really nice when you know your opponent has no consecrates.
Dethelor really needed to get like a Spike Ridge Steed or something there to stabilize this board and hope there's no devolve.
And I assume that's why the Chum's just been sitting in hand, to be honest, just so if he does pick something to buff it with, it's just stopping Xixo's army of destroyers that have just been wiping out board after board.
He's thinking about whether or not he needs the 2 heal from the True Silver.
Right.
So,
because this game isn't going much longer, whatever happens. So
there's 1 Jade Claws remaining for Xixo. It would play around the Jade Claws by utilizing the True Silver there to kill the minion. But he realizes that he wants the board presence of an additional 1/1 more than beating 1 additional card from Xixo's deck.
I think Xixo just goes all in now. He's seen the consecration.
Right. So these 2/2s are difficult for Dethelor to beat.
Yeah, Xixo can go face here because 2 health means that Dethelor, with what Xixo can see, because True Silver will help, can't even hit one of these with his weapon. It's because a matter of how dying works. 2 Silver would be nice, but Xixo considering whether to keep back this Firefly. Why?
I'm not sure. There's no second consecrate, so it seems like a good time to extend the Firefly.
Yeah,
so he ends up going for it. And Kings is not Spike Ridge Steed. Dethelor's Paladin finally going down to the Shaman, which is the expected result of this matchup. Now Dethelor will probably try for the Shaman Mirror. He could queue up the Druid as well. It doesn't really matter which order he queues it up in. He's got to beat 1 deck, so
right.
either way. But the most likely is the Shaman Mirror because that's his best odds of taking it down as the aggro druid is unfavored. So he's making a flip of the coin with his thumb there. I mean, when the lineups are so similar, this is something that can happen.
Right.
And they're very, very similar.
And the flip of the coin seems to imply he feels he's not going to win it if it goes to 2-all. It's like, it's a flip on this game.
Basically,
in his mind.
yeah. Is the aggro druid performs so poorly against the shaman if it just draws even remotely well.
Xixo with the Firefly Flame Tongue again, but he has got the coin, and that's not necessarily a positive.
Yeah, it's really bad to be going second. Going first, you get the ability to just one-drop into Flame Tongue and stuff like that and just win the game.
Or you can have Evolve, Jade Claws, and Bloodlust and do nothing.
Yeah, 2 finishers is not good in your opening hand.
And we saw this one yesterday. The same sort of thing happened where the player going second had the one drop and had the Flame Tongue, and suddenly he's equivalent to going first now. Xixo going to get all of the tempo he wants.
Yeah, the Jade Claws gets to recover some of it, but it still puts you at a significant disadvantage for sure. The one drop 1 turn too late.
Yeah, it gives him something to do next turn at least, but he's got the hero power for that anyway. It's also a nice defense if Xixo does pick up his own Jade Claws, which he would probably play onto the board.
Yeah, you still play the Jade Claws here. Start cleaning things up. Just limit the amount of incoming damage.
So do you just portal here, or do you hero power? You hero power?
Definitely hero power. Hero power lowers the cost of the thing from below already in your hand.
Yep.
As well as the potential to like roll Taunt Totem and protect your minion. And you can get a lot more portal value than that in this matchup.
Sure. Especially if you get spell damage totems, like he just did.
Yeah, and now Dethelor has to think about, maybe it's worth killing that.
Do you ever start considering at this point, or maybe in a turn or two's time, evolving very early?
To try and get that sick tempo evolve. If you're far enough behind, for sure. If you get a 2-6 out of it, sometimes you just win the game on the back of that because you hide a Flame Tongue Totem behind that, for example, or you just pull far enough ahead, taking good trades. So there is always the chance for that. So that is going to be an interesting question Dethelor has to ask in the upcoming turns.
It'll be after he plays the Corsair, most likely, if he does go for that. I don't think he'll need to. He seems to have enough to keep a game alive, but something to look at.
And Xixo with 2 evolves in his hand can even start really considering it. Yeah.
Any totem you like this turn to play into turn 4 thing, though, must be tempting.
Right. But
well, he's going to go for it. Let's see where he ends up.
I like it.
Oh
my.
Wow.
The Frothing Berserker is sick.
Frothing Berserker. How on earth does the opposing Shaman deal with this? He can do it. He's got Maelstrom Portal, he's got Patches, he's got his weapon. That's his whole turn.
Bad. Well, you can also evolve it. See, maybe you get a 2-6 out of the deal.
The problem here is Xixo's 2-2 and 2-3 are actually massive here. They're just things that can start maintaining your board presence whilst you're actually developing your real Hearthstone cards.
Well, if you evolve into 2-3s out of your 2-1 drops, then you contest adequately.
That's a posh way of saying stuff.
You know, adequately is posh? I don't know.
Contest adequately.
Oh, okay. This is Hearthstone terms.
Wow. Hearthstone's now posh.
Not the greatest
so
card.
Alakir is a good comeback card if it's close enough, but it's a long way off from where he is currently.
It's, yeah, he's not going for the clear or anything. He's going to embrace Frothing head on.
Okay, so he's going to have to go for something cheaper then, because this Frothing's going to be requiring an answer sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and he's lowering the amount of answers that he has for it. The weapon's gone. The Patches is gone. He has no Jade Lightning to deal with this. Seems like an odd turn. I would have liked to see him just kill the Frothing and evolve there. Get 2 2-drops to contest your opponent's 2.
Yeah, see where you're at.
Dead 2-drops, you know?
This Frothing is going to start frothing mightily here.
Yeah, this is insane.
Ouch.
He's thinking about whether or not he wants to full clear the board, but yeah, 10 damage, pretty juicy.
At the start of last turn, he may have been considering about evolving again this turn, but now he has a gigantic Frothing, so just don't bother.
Yeah, the Devolve could help. That's a card that can really swing this matchup, as well as in conjunction with Maelstrom Portal to make stuff happen.
stuff happened.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff.
Grunts, footmen, and wisps. It's not quite a frothing.
No. So now at this point, he has to think, is it worth maelstroming? You only get to kill 2 wisps. You've already seen 1 flame tongue totem. Do you ever beat Bloodlust anyway? He's going to say, yeah, I should clear this. Play around Bloodlust, play around the 2nd flame tongue totem. But there is some potential you just develop the high-statted minion there. Punish is, of course, too many cards, because Jade Lightning punishes, Bloodlust punishes, so you have to portal, even though it doesn't feel good.
Right. And now we have a 5-5 versus 0.
And we have a little bit of an update from one of the other matches happening here in the top 16. Show has lost to Xixo, 3-2. So Xixo is going to be moving on to the next day.
We'll find out tomorrow. He'll be in the top 8. We'll see all of the matches going forth tomorrow. And Xixo trying to make it his time here at DreamHack.
Looks like Xixo is in a prime position to win this game. He got off the Doppelgangster Evolve. Even though he didn't get the greatest minions in the world out of it, it's still incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be the end of it.
It's a familiar number of stats.
Yeah. The Doppelgangster Evolve is so brokenly strong that almost whenever it happens, you just kind of win the game, especially if it's on turn 6.
Yeah, the Evolve is gone.
Unless you're incredibly far behind. But even if you devolve
yeah,
this...
there's still 5s.
Yeah, there's still 5s. It's still...
Just get 3 Doppelgangsters. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen before, but that would be hilarious. But
that's a video waiting to happen at some point.
Yeah. It's probably never happened, because if it has happened before, it would have been a video by now.
Sure. Or there's somebody at home going, why didn't I record this game?
Yeah.
I got the 3 boots and the 3 Doppelgangster devolve.
Oh my gosh. The 3 boots in the garden while doing that would be insane.
Why are my cards worse than Xixo's? Is that shake of the head?
Oh,
Of course,
man.
he started off with 1 and 2 drops, and he started off with 5 drops. And it's 2-2, and that's the mirror match one for Xixo.
Right, that's the most important game in this entire series right there. They have the exact same lineups, essentially, just one deck kind of swapped out, but they have the exact same weaknesses. Both of their lineups are weak to Shaman and Mage. They both blend the Mage, so now both of their lineups are really weak to Shaman. So winning that Shaman mirror has allowed Xixo to become favored in the series.
Favored, but not over yet. We've seen plenty of surprises. I think there's a tendency for when we cast to equate favored to having won.
Yeah.
And you've still got to play the games, guys. Right. But Xixo's got Firefly into Flame Tongue again. And the 3rd game in a row.
Dethelor, though, has a really solid hand as well. Having the Galactic Crawler can oftentimes land up against the Bloodsail Corsair, the patches from the Shaman, and Mark of the Lotus, one of the strongest cards in the matchup.
But unfortunately, he has 1 minion, and Xixo has no pirates.
Right.
So it's River Croc versus the world.
Right, and the world is going to bash River Croc in the face.
Not quite the same lineup for Dethelor. He does have that swipe, which Xixo didn't have. So
the swipe is a little bit better against the Shaman, for sure. Having that extra AoE in there is fantastic.
And actually, that mulligan's turned out not too bad for Dethelor. At least he has things to do now. Definitely much better than it first looked.
Yeah, it's got the Raven, which just contests on board, forces some action from Xixo.
Yeah, Raven, 2nd time we've seen it in this tournament. The 1st time it wasn't in Aggro Druid.
Yeah.
It shows Jade.
It's a pretty powerful card.
You can see why, right? I mean, just how good is this in a control deck now? Just putting a Raven down against these 1-2 things.
Yeah, there's so many 1-2s in the current metagame, so it makes a lot of sense.
And you're playing Curator, so you thin out your deck of garbage later on. It's not like it clutters up your deck as a bad top deck. You just get rid of it with Curator.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But Show going down to Seiko there, 3-2, as we just said.
Xixo plays the Flame Tongue, gets the good trade, then can protect it the turn after, utilizing the Stonehill Defender.
Right, and that's the key. Quite often you end up in this position with Flame Tongue, and it looks like you made good trades, and your opponent plays something, and they just kill it the turn after, and you've lost all of the tempo you gained. But with this defensive taunt coming down next turn, should be able to keep that going a little.
Yeah, so Dethelor should develop a minion that he... Oh, he's got only one choice here, but developing a 2-attack minion that he wants to buff with Mark of Your Charge is ideal, because the Stonehill Defender that you're expecting to come out has 4 health.
Interesting decision now. Earth Elemental is tempting, but Thing from Below could be so game-breaking if you get that far.
Okay. It's cost 5 right now. There's been 1 totem played, so it's going to be costing a little bit less in the future.
Could cost a lot less if Xixo's next turn is Flame Tongue and roll a totem. It probably isn't that, but Flame Tongue next turn is very likely.
It makes sense that his next turn could be Flame Tongue roll a totem, because if Marka Yashraj comes down to allow the trade for Dethelor, then he's going to need to utilize the Flame Tongue to trade up into the Crab. So it's very possible that he can get this thing from below discounted like a ton. And I guess that's why you take it, because you're expecting these sort of things to happen.
And then the turn after that could be just roll a totem, Flame Elemental, 2-mana thing from below, and you're made with the Flame Tongue defended again. Let's see how this works out.
Well, Firefly Coin Mark of the Lotus seems quite appealing. Getting the minion outside of 2 health, so the Flame Tongue can't be used to trade up, as well as... Oh, he's not going to be buffing it. Now it's vulnerable to Jade Claws, the Flame Tongue trading up, and a couple of other things.
If he rolls Spell Power, there's no damage here.
It's a little risky.
That would just be pretty crazy.
Yeah, Dethelor takes a bit of a risk there, but it does not get punished. Xixo tries to figure out if he could punish him there. Unable to do it.
Xixo not even contemplating taking the free kill there, because he'd have been free killed back, basically. And instead just setting up this awkward-looking board for Dethelor. He doesn't mind if he spends time hero powering down his Flame Tongue. That's like a win of 2 mana.
Right. Most likely we see Vicious Fledgling plus Mark of the Lotus. I don't know, though.
Quite a bit of gas here for Dethelor, counting that swipe as gas, if you like. A bit of defense. Build a board, defend it.
Sure. It's definitely a good way to get through some things.
He'll want to get that Fledgling on the board. That's what's going through his mind, but it's just too awkward, I think. Unless Fledgling Mark run both the 1/2s into the Flame Tongue.
Yeah, I like that line, personally, but it could be swayed to make a stronger board here this turn, utilizing maybe Patch's double Mark. It's pretty close between the two. The issue is the Fledgling plus Mark plays right into Jade Lightning. So,
but the downside, if you don't play the Fledgling now, the card gets so much worse as the game goes on. You're giving up a lot of interest on this card.
Yeah.
He's going to go for this.
Right.
See if your 1/1 can deal. See if Xixo can pick up the lightning required.
Doesn't have it, but he can continue rolling totems, discounting the cost of thing from below.
And he could have an Earth Elemental this turn if he'd wanted it.
Yeah.
Just an option that he had.
Yeah, when I saw the Earth Elemental thing from below selection, I leaned more towards the Earth Elemental, but it does overload you the turn after, so...
Yeah. He wouldn't be in such a good spot in a lot of ways.
Right, yeah.
It would be an option that would deal with this board for some time.
It was close between the two.
I guess if he had it, what would happen now?
It would die to
it would die to the 2/3s and the swipe, the board would be cleared, and the Vicious Fledgling would start doing...
And then he's overloaded and can't recover it, dies. So it wouldn't have been fantastic. Goes with the Bloodlust for
like
clear.
To see that if you're a Xixo fan, having to Bloodlust a 1/1.
Well, he sets up next turn to be able to totem double thing from below, so he has a really solid reload. He's hoping that maybe Dethelor has not that strong of board development and he can just outvalue him as the game continues.
And to be fair, not that strong a board development is exactly what's going on here. Okay, Patch's Mark is pretty much what's going on here, but drawing Innovate there was a shocker.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
It's only good if you actually get your living mana.
Yeah, he's got a very top-heavy variation of aggro druid. He's got the double Bittertide Hydra, double living mana. So oftentimes this variation is going to find its finisher cards. So it's a bit surprising that he's kind of gassing out here.
Yeah, it's interesting the other way as well, though. He actually managed to get going early despite having all those late-game cards. So they're going to start turning up sometime soon.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, he's got more late game than early game left in his deck.
Xixo is going to be able to just totem double thing, like you said, though, next turn. But he's going to have quite a lot facing him.
Yeah. He is going with the Mark of the Lotus, trying to just apply the pressure immediately, get in as much damage.
You have to do this here. You've got a Shaman that can just kill you. You've got to be a bit scared of combo as well. You realize your time might be running out.
Yeah, with the Doppelgangster Evolve having potential here, but...
and that's the downside of using your buffs as a Druid.
Those are all going to be Wisps after the Devolve happens, allowing the Maelstrom Portal to full clear them.
If he even wants to, which he probably will, because you don't want to get rebuffed. And when you run the Druid out of stuff,
well,
a load of their cards in their deck don't do anything anymore. But he's used 2 marks.
Yeah, you've seen 2 marks, so you could potentially just let the Wisps hang and save Maelstrom Portal for a living mana, potentially.
But on the other side of that, there is no particular hurry to drop these 5/5s. They're not... Yeah, you can start beating your opponent down, but just not dying is kind of good. Save the portal for the living mana is an option. Because you're going to have time to roll more totems, so you can get into a situation where you can roll Wrath of Air and portal if needed. But Xixo's just going to do the thing that you're taught to do against Druid. Don't let them have anything. And this is huge. He has got quite a lot of late game.
Oh. That's not any of those.
That's why you kill the
drops.
minions, kids. And suddenly Dethelor is just out of stuff. And looking at being out of the tournament.
Right. Every game this series was won by Shaman. Right? No, 2 games were won by Paladin.
Yeah, apart from the ones it lost.
Apart from the ones it lost. Okay.
But Xixo going for the reverse sweep with the
Oh
Shaman.
my, he has the devolve now for all of the potential threats that Dethelor could play out. If he plays a Bittertide Hydra, you devolve it into some silly 4-drop. If he plays
Living Mana?
Living Mana, you devolve it into...
Lose the game.
You lose the game, yeah. So there's almost no hope for Dethelor with that devolve being picked up for Xixo.
Firefly, though. Oh, no, hang on.
Yeah,
That's not how hype works.
Yeah, it's not going to be good for him. He can play it and feel sad.
Yeah. How can you feel sad playing this card?
Because he had a 2-0 lead.
It's such a happy-looking card.
And it diminished. It just went away. And now it's all over.
And this is just going through the motions now. Got to feel for Dethelor, especially getting the 2-0 lead.
Right.
It's almost nice to just lose 3-0 and go home sad than have that snatched away from you with a reverse sweep.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing here that Xixo's got to do is maintain concentration.
Well, it's
That's
just...
I think he might.
As long as he doesn't concede the game or disconnect or...
We'll do that. Bottom right.
Or bottom right, yeah. Or take off his headset and get DQ'd.
Yeah?
I can't imagine. I mean, Dethelor could drop back-to-back. No, he can't even drop back-to-back Living Mana. So...
Yeah, it's a shame for Dethelor. He is a player who has done exceedingly well at DreamHacks over the last couple of years.
He's been improving in placement, too.
Yeah.
He used to be, you know, a bubble player. He used to just not be able to make the top 16. Yeah. But this year he was able to make the top 16. So, you know, one step at a time. Next year he's going to make top 8.
And
year after that, top 4.
He hangs around with a lot of the strong Greek players now. The Greek community very close together and getting more and more powerful because they're boosting each other up together, like with practice.
Sure, yeah, not account boosting.
No, not account boosting. Just boosting each other's skill level
right.
by
playing
out
together and analyzing gameplay for sure.
And that's a community that I think they had 14 players in the top 100 one month recently.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, considering you know they're playing on the EU server, so that's difficult.
Well, is it? I don't know. The NA server is pretty hard.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And see,
I like
you know, how do you even compare? Yeah, NA is more challenging than EU for sure.
Okay.
Twitch chat will tell you.
Cheers, Twitch.
Yeah.
Xixo just drawing through, looking for a bloodlust, basically looking for a way to put Dethelor out of his misery.
Yep. And Dethelor just top decking these 1-drops, making sure he hero powers that totem every turn. And he's dead.
There it is. 21 plus a little tiny bit is more than 22.
Right. 23, in fact.
Wow. Math's gone. 21 plus 2. And Xixo progresses to tomorrow's top 8 alongside his teammate, the undefeated Hoi. And that's going to be interesting to see how those two get on.
Yeah, that's a pretty good showing for the new team, Planet Odd. Having a lot of success here, being able to win the game.
Well, that was rough news for Dethelor, right?
Yeah.
Being 2-0 in a top 16 match and then just falling down. It's like you're almost there, there are just 2 steps left, and you just stumble and fall down like 3 floors.
Yeah, well, it's the nature of how the decks and the lineups kind of pan out there. You know, both players are kind of forced into that ban, and then it all comes down to the Shaman Mirror, and that's what happens when they have such similar lineups.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of their decks were almost the same.
Literally with the mage that we didn't see, right? So
which was bizarrely the same as well.
Yeah, because it had weird text in it, and it was the same. So maybe they've practiced together before.
Well, to be fair, as you said, Dethelor is making progress. He's representing Greece here on the Swedish event, let's say that. And actually, Greece is doing better and better overall. punching it from 2015 when the players were still new to the scene, now becoming a force to be reckoned with. So still, congrats to Dethelor. Top 16 is nothing to scoff on, and is actually an amazing achievement when it comes to a field of 200 players. But Xixo is something else. It's like insane, right?
Every time you think he's gone missing, every time he starts getting criticised, oh, we haven't seen him win anything for 3 or 4 months, he must be done.
Yeah,
he comes back and wins like 3 events in a row.
Yeah. He's got to be one of the most consistent performing players in Hearthstone for the longest amount of time.
Right.
He just has been killing it since like 2013, man.
Yeah, he couldn't get invites at one point, so back-to-back weeks he had to win a 256-man best-of-3 tournament to qualify for, I can't remember what the event was called, ESL Legends or something.
Yeah.
And he won it. He didn't get invited the next week, so he won it again, and then they had to start inviting him.
Yeah.
That was so silly times. That 2014 was actually really silly when it comes to the scene that we had. But all those players that are consistent went just through with it, right? We had names like Xixo, of course. We had names like RDU, who just proved himself by winning tournaments. Then we had names like Hoey, Orange. All those guys are not known streamers. Those are guys that played the hearts out and hearths out.
Oh.
And now are known players and just the best players in the game.
And something you pointed out, like Dethelor is maybe a tier below, but he is one of those guys who is getting known by top 16s, top 24s.
Right.
And you think, oh, what's the top 24? There's 200 of the best players in the world in this room. Top 24, top 16 consistently puts you in that solid second tier of players.
Yeah, definitely true. I'm really happy to actually see that the players and the community are paying more attention to the top contenders and top results, not only just the winner. So we're actually going to a short break, literally a few seconds, and then we'll have the last match for today from the top 16, which will be Orange. We talked about him briefly. Against Dragon Arbed, who, if I'm not mistaken, had a top 16 already in DreamHack, right?
He did, and I believe it's Winter 15.
Yeah. So a long time ago.
Same time that Orange last got to the top 16.
Did he?
Actually, I think Orange has been to one since, but yeah, this top 16 is like mirroring that one. In 4 different players got to the same 16s and then had a long time off.
Exactly.
Interesting.
The 2015 seemed like a good year for those players, right? And now
Very
they're
fine year for Wines and Hearthstone
exactly.
players.
It's a good year for Hearthstone as well. So let's just cut to that break, and we'll be right back for the last match. Don't go anywhere. This is DreamHack Summer Yon Shopping with the Hearthstone Grand Prix.